Magandang hapon. Ako si Miriam Grace Go, ang investigative editor ng Rappler. Nanonood kayo ngayon ng Newsbreak Chats. Newsbreak Chats is our monthly huddle with Rappler journalists to share insights, analysis, and even inside stories on the major issues we've tackled in our in-depth reports. In September, Newsbreak published a series of investigative reports on how presidential friend and economic advisor Michael Yang's business interests expanded rapidly during the presidency of Rodrigo Duterte. We looked at the big picture after the Senate investigation into Pharmaly Pharmaceutical Corporation turned out to be connected to Michael Yang. Joining me today are senior Rappler reporters Pia Ranada, who wrote the series about Michael Yang, Lian Buwan, who's following the Pharmaly probe, and also joining us is Marites Vitu, Rappler's editor-at-large, who's been writing insightful pieces about the president's quote-unquote friends with benefits through her newsletter, Sui Generis. Good afternoon, ladies, and thank you for joining us. Yeah, you're the one who got the documents in 2018 that Michael Yang actually had contracts with Malacanang as presidential advisor. Now, President Duterte, like any other president, surely has a number of advisors. But what makes the arrangement with Michael Yang particularly questionable?
So, advisors of the president, maraming different titles yan. So, we can see them like being labeled as envoys of the president to China. And si Duterte, he has 5 of those. These are mostly prominent businessmen like Fernando Borja, William Lima, Carlos Chan, Wally Lee, Chen Yong. And then we have yung advisors, presidential advisors, like si Dennis Uy, isa siyang presidential advisor on sports. And then si Joey Concepcion, presidential advisor on entrepreneurship. Robert Borge is advisor naman on foreign affairs. So, itong mga titles na to, what makes them all similar is usually they're honorific and then they usually aren't paid a real salary. Like, it's only maybe like 1 peso every year or something. So, ano lang siya, parang title. But it gives them special access to the president and kumbaga they can use that title to gain certain diplomatic privileges and attend certain official events and functions. Pero yung kinaibahan nung kay Michael Yang is number 1, hindi ito publicly announced ever by Malacanang. It was unlike the other advisors. We hear diba, Duterte appointing them. It's public knowledge. They really released the appointment papers and everybody knows it. Pero yung kay Michael Yang, it took talaga a request from Malacanang Records Office for us to know about his title. And before then, we only actually even got parang word of it because it was Michael Yang himself who was using that title sa business cards niya with his associates. So, if hindi niya ginamit yun, di ba, we might never have thought of requesting it from Malacanang and we would have never known that he was actually an advisor. And isa pang major difference is si Michael Yang is in fact a foreigner. He's not Filipino, unlike most of all of Duterte's other advisors. Mga Pinoy yan. Si Michael Yang, although he's been in the Philippines since the 1990s, he is really a Chinese national. And in fact, if you believe what his lawyer says, Michael Yang doesn't even know how to speak Filipino. So, yun yung medyo parang strange. And then another thing is, Duterte actually denied Yang was his advisor when it first came out. And he even said,
Yeah, I remember that the president denied that Yang was his advisor. Sinabi niya pa nga na, paano ko siya gagawing advisor? Chinese national siya. But then we got the document. Yeah.
So, naamin naman ni then spokesperson Salvador Ponelo na, yes, those documents are real. And they said that 2018 lang yun. But actually, I gathered from my sources also that, in fact, Michael Yang had been advisor since 2016. In fact, since the October 2016 state visit of Duterte to China, the sources even described those times as parang Yang's golden age. Kasi parang siya yung Chinese national na talagang lording it over or talagang may special access siya to Duterte above all the other Chinese businessmen who were trying to get close to Duterte.
And another interesting thing is in 2018 when you discovered na officially pala a presidential advisor siya. It was the same year when an intelligence report surfaced that he's involved in illegal drugs, di ba? But instead of investigating him, dinismiss ng presidente ang intelligence report.
Yeah, actually, yung intelligence report na yun, in a way, it precipitated Michael Yang's parang the public knowing about Michael Yang eh. Kasi 2017, in-author ni Eduardo Asherto yung kanyang report about Michael Yang. It landed in Duterte's desk, I think February 2018, something like that, early 2018. And then at that time also, if you will recall, si Asherto was about to participate in Senate hearings about the billions worth of shabu smuggled into magnetic lifters through the Customs Bureau. So, parang nalaman ni Duterte na, Asherto will appear in public. He has this report. I've been ignoring it for months. And so, inisip ni Duterte, he might mention Michael Yang. So, inunahan na ni Duterte when he talked about Yang, suddenly out of the blue, like, it was like, everyone was like, why mention this? Nobody. Like, who's this Michael Yang?
True.
So, dun ako na-pick yung interest ko na why would Duterte mention this person out of the blue? There must be something more to it. And sure enough, there really was a lot more to it than he let on. And it's classic Duterte yun eh. Yung he will say a controversy before anybody knows about it so that he can have control of the narrative. Like we saw this in his first campaign speech na in the first speech niya as a candidate, minention na niya yung womanizing niya. Kasi for him, if I talk about it now, nobody else can talk about it. Kumbaga, they will talk about it within the parameters of how I talk about it. So, control na niya yung narrative. So, strategy talaga.
I was wondering, have we seen cases of conflict of interest of this extent in other presidential advisors before, whether under Duterte or other presidents? Meron ba tayong naaalala? Or
yes.
Ito yung pinakamala?
Ako naman, pinag-iisipan ko itong case ni Michael Yang. Wala akong maisip nung time ni President Arroyo or Fidel Ramos or Noynoy Aquino. However, ni President Marcos, hindi presidential advisors, kundi cabinet member, for example, si Juan Ponce Enrique, who at that time was a major partner, a founding partner of ACRA Law Office, na ang clients ng ACRA lumaki yan kasi yung mga kliyente nila, nakukuha nila dahil they were in, malakas sila sa administration ni Marcos. So pero hindi siya yung style ni Duterte na isang tao, bibigyan niya ng malaking leeway. Ito, powerful people use their connections to get clients for their law office. So hindi ako makakita ng direct example. I don't know if Lian and Pia have thought of other examples.
At saka foreigner mother, remember that Senator Laila de Lima wanted Michael Yang's contract investigated kasi she was imagining ano yung state secrets that Michael Yang was having access to being the president's advisor. Ano yung implications nun?
So if it were a foreign advisor, I don't think meron in our in recent history natin, I don't think there is a case that is as similar as the case of Michael Yang. Kasi the others, cronyism, favoritism, giving favors, hindi level ang playing field. So in a way, unique pala ito, Gigi, since you raised that issue.
Si Duterte talaga ay parang expertise niya na i-stretch ang limits ng lahat.
May I add lang one point, Gigi, which I mentioned to you offline. Ang interesting dito sa case ni Michael Yang, hindi lang siya advisor on economy and business, no? Remember, binanggit ni President Duterte na si Michael Yang was in the official entourage of Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. So, official entourage, meaning may close connections si Michael Yang sa Chinese Communist Party, sa top echelon. So, it's a very interesting situation na business advisor mo na may conduit ka pa sa Chinese Communist Party. So, questions again arise. Is Michael Yang, as you said earlier, Gigi, sharing intel with the Chinese Communist Party, intel on Duterte, and also he was part of implementing foreign policy ba with China? Kasi siya yung parang bridge. In a way, naging bridge siya sa Chinese Communist Party. And I think, Pia, you wrote about it when you quoted Duterte as saying in a PDP Laban meeting that he, I think Michael Yang to a certain degree helped in implementing the policy of Duterte towards China.
In fact, PDP Laban itself has a partnership with the Communist Party.
Yeah.
Diba? So they publicize that a lot. Pia, can you give us an idea how extensive Michael Yang's business interests and expansion are under the Duterte presidency?
Grabe talaga yung paglaki ng kanyang businesses. Like, in his newest company called Piley Holdings, basically it's like a reincarnation of all his other businesses. They kind of reorganized it and put it under one umbrella. And in the website of that company, ina-allege na they actually have 58 subsidiaries in various industries, including mining. And nakita rin natin, we also saw ourselves parang mga companies under this umbrella. Like, he has a Pugu company called Shongwei Technology. It got PAGCOR accreditation. Meron din siyang real estate, mga construction, and as we saw, diba, medical supply company. So he has his fingers in everything. And to think that it started out all in a department store in Davao City's Chinatown, diba, yung DCLA. And if we believe Duterte, yung main business ni Michael Yang noon supposedly was in selling cellular phones. And yun lang daw. But as we know from Asherto's report, parang sinasabi ni Asherto, parang front lang yung DCLA for drug trafficking. And we actually, when we speak to drug operatives, they really say that many drug traffickers who operated before, right, they have all of this money, they need to funnel it somewhere, they need to spend it somewhere, and they actually use that money to put up legitimate businesses. And if you follow that line of thinking, diba, Michael Yang's businesses now are all, I mean, pretty legal in the sense that they have sec papers, they're all about mga hindi na drugs or mining, diba? I mean, pogos, and mga ano yan, legitimate industries naman yan. So, in a way, diba, you really ask yourself, how was he able to put up a company that has 58 subsidiaries, even has a Chinese office, headquarters in China, all from just selling cell phones.
And grew only in the last 5 years under the Duterte presidency. Kung 1999 pa siya nagnenegosyo sa Davao, so 2016 lang lumago yung business niya. Diba? Okay. Lian, if Pharmally got its government contracts through its links to Michael Yang, I don't think there was any other way they could have gotten the contracts. Can you tell us how questionable the award of those government contracts was? I mean, how exactly did Pharmally make money out of those contracts?
Well, yung conflict of interest kay Michael Yang, it would have to depend on yung laws covering it. So yung conflict of interest laws natin, it has to be, you have to be either a cabinet member or a member of the legislative and who should not have direct interest in a business. So Michael Yang could say, hindi naman ako cabinet member, hindi naman ako senator or congressman, and he could even say kung kailan ba nag-expire yung contract niya as advisor. So he can say na at this time nung nagpapa-bidding na hindi naman ako economic advisor ni President Duterte. So maraming siyang pwedeng lusutan para sabihin legally it's not a conflict of interest. But of course, what is legal, what is not legal is not always, what is legal is not always correct. Kasi parang makikita mo naman yung questionable, pagiging questionable or irregularity nung naging sitwasyon. Kaya I think the senators talaga, yung trajectory talaga ng mga pagtatanong nila is finding a link to an official. So, nandito sila sa Kailao, sa PSDBM, And as accused by allies in the House at ngayon kay Ferdinand Topacio, parang sinasabi nila, tinutumbok lang naman yan si Presidente, ganun. And kung totoong tinutumbok nila, I don't think there's nothing wrong with that since this is a very big public interest case din naman, and we're talking about billions and billions of money in the middle of a pandemic.
Pero remind us yung paano kumita ng mabilis at madali ang Farmally, kasi yun yung talagang nakakapagtaka that even tax experts and the regular businessmen were amazed na wow, ang laki ng pera. Can you refresh our memory about it?
Sure. So, in September 2019, Farmally Incorporated, so they registered with the SEC at meron silang paid up capital of 625,000 pesos. By March, they already started transacting with government via a negotiated procurement. If matatandaan natin, March 24, nung pinirmahan ni President Duterte yung Bayanihan 1, meron ng exemption doon, blanket exemption on procurement law. So, let's take a pause and, for example, sabihin natin walang Bayanihan 1, walang procurement exemption. Farmally would have never qualified for any project kasi 625,000 pesos in capital and no track record at all sa bidding and sa government transaction. X na yun lahat kasi basta maraming kailangan technical specifications and kailangan you should have completed a prior project that's worth half the price of what you're about to undertake. Ang una na lang a project is 54 million. So it was an impossibility for Farmally to get a government project had procurement law been in place. Pero dahil sinuspend ni Pangulong Duterte, and this has been the justification repeatedly by Attorney Lloyd Christopher Lau, wala silang fina-follow na procurement law. So, kumbaga, bahala kayo dyan. Ang kailangan lang nating magawa ay to ensure that we will have supplies, and Attorney Lau defends that acts. Farmally yung nagsabing we can ensure supplies, and sabi niya, ang pinaka-biggest safeguard daw that he gave the government and the Filipino people is hindi siya nagbayad until after Farmally has made a full delivery of supplies. Yung procurement law exemption, I think in my opinion, ang tinatakbo ngayon ng pagtatanong ng mga lawyers sa Senado, the likes of Senator Pangilinan, Senator Drilon, and Senator Gordon, is let's look outside procurement law and look at graft. Kasi graft was never suspended. Kaya sila nagkakaroon ng discovery ng expired test kits, tampered face shields, because whether or not may exemption yung procurement law, may nangyari pa ring disadvantageous deal to the government, and that will fall under graft, which was not suspended.
Tama ka dun. Yung testimonies in the Senate that Yang was Farmally's financier and guarantor, they tie up nicely with the President's description of Yang as pagador or paymaster. So, ibig sabihin, alam ng Presidente na ganito yung laro, no? Na parang you put up a small company or kumuha ka ng isang maliit na company, then just give guarantees and then makakakuha na ng kontrata. Is that even the way you choose an advisor? Although pinag-usapan natin kanina yun. Pia, can you talk about how the friendship of the President with Michael Yang started? Bakit believe sa kanya si Duterte?
Well, kasi nung time na when Michael Yang was getting a foothold in Davao City, mga 1990s, we should remember that Duterte was then himself a new mayor, a new local government executive. So I'm sure he was then getting to know the business community, and we know in Davao may thriving Chinese business community doon. So dun sa pagkakakwento ni Duterte about Michael Yang, he was introduced to Michael Yang by Sammy Uy, who happens to be his childhood friend. If you know Sammy Uy, mga kwento from sources is Sammy Uy, as a high school kid, would eat in Duterte's house, be served by Duterte's former wife, si Elizabeth Zimmerman, tapos magkukwentuhan si Duterte and Sammy Uy, who's much younger than Duterte, but they got along very well. Alam ko close pa nga yung tatay ni Sammy Uy kay Duterte. So, close family friends talaga. So, you have this person, Sammy Uy, influential businessman, close to Duterte, as your, kumbaga, parang your connect to the mayor. So si Michael Yang had that connection right away. Trusted friend introduces you to the mayor. So obviously, parang in a way, vetted si Michael Yang by Sammy Uy to Duterte. Kaya I'm sure that's why naging close sila. Kasi parang ano yun circle of close friends. You're in the inner circle right away because you were introduced by a close friend. So through the years, nakita natin na that connection always stayed, and yun na nga, coinciding with Michael Yang's thriving business from merely consigning cell phones, he now took up an entire department store called DCLA in Davao City's Chinatown. And of course, si Duterte, being mayor, had lots of dealings with Michael Yang. He even said na parang in a command conference, parang dinapitan siya ni Michael Yang, and he supposedly told Yang, don't ever go into drug business because I will kill you, etc., etc. So, and then we know that connection stayed strong because in 2015, si Michael Yang even invited Duterte to tour his Chinese headquarters. Kasi so yung business niya, I guess, lumaki na to the point na nagka-headquarters sa China. And who else would he invite but, diba, Mayor Duterte, who at that time had already decided to file his COC with the COMELEC. So ito na, presidential candidate na siya, and invited siya sa China. So in a way, parang it's already parang setting the tone for what would happen, no? Na like si Michael Yang assuring Duterte in a way of his support no matter what, 'di ba? From Davao days to your presidential bid, I'm here with you all the way. So yun yung naging
Oo. Yung trip na yun, I remember, nag-trigger ng talks in political circles na baka Chinese yung funder ng campaign ni Duterte. Kasi after visiting China and Yang's facilities, bigla siyang nag-announce na, sige, tatakbo na siya talaga, di ba? Mother, Marites, what does it say about Duterte's style of governance? Yung mga friendship na nag-spill over into government affairs.
Ang nai-imagine ko, ang nakikita ko kay Duterte, meron siyang worldview na pag friends, kasi di ba sinabi niya, he only appoints people into public posts na kilala niya kasi tinatrust niya. So ang worldview niya, he will only surround himself with friends. So ngayon, ang nangyayari, he allows these friends to use their positions for personal gain. And very clear example yung kay Michael Yang. And remember, Gigi and Pia and Lian, Duterte himself described Yang as pagador or paymaster. And he sort of boasted it, or matter of very straightforward description of Michael Yang, which to me showed that yung ethical views ni Duterte, hindi niya yata alam na unethical yon. Na, you hire a financial advisor, you ask him pala to be your advisor for economic advisor, and then you don't have boundaries. You allow him, he allowed Michael Yang to be a middleman, to get, assume if you're a middleman, you get commissions. Mm-hmm. So yung kanyang worldview nga na you operate with friends, you allow them to reap personal rewards because you owe them a debt of gratitude because they supported you during the campaign. So yung emblematic ito ng style of governance ni Duterte na hopefully wag na nating makita in the next 6 years. I mean, the new administration.
Speaking of earning commissions, diba, that was one of the points that the senators try to drive at sa hearings, no, na parang ang formally lumalabas ay nangomission lang sa biglang laki na 200 million plus yung kanilang tinubo dun sa kanilang transaction sa government, coming from a paid up capital of 625,000 pesos. Marites, zooming out, you pointed out before that this family controversy involving the palace, there was a sort of a prequel to it, yung Navy frigates deal, and that involved the same names that have been dragged into the family controversy now. Lloyd Christopher Lau and the other Christopher Senator Bongo. Nagtanong ka dati sa iyong newsletter, what if the Senate rigorously looked into the 15.5 billion frigates deal the way they are dissecting the family scandal today? Would Go and Lau have been stopped in their tracks? Would formally have been avoided? Ikaw mismo, anong sagot mo doon sa tanong mo na yun?
Alam mo kasi ang daming what if sa ating history eh. What if ganitong nangyari kay Marcos. But anyway, kasi napaka-political ng Senate investigation. Ngayon, nagbago na kasi yung ihip ng hangin eh. Last year of Duterte, and may mga nag-ambisyon na tumakbo for president. So, ibang-iba yung tone. You know, the tone during the investigation of the Free Gates deal was very friendly. In fact, dinismiss kaagad ng mga senators, including Gordon, Zubiri, I think Legarda po. Sabi nila, Special Assistant Bongo is innocent. There's no evidence. Kaagad, no, they shortcut the investigation. So ang tingin ko, probably if the Senate really did its job and dutifully investigated the Free Gates deal, baka mas marami pang lumabas and nagkaroon na ng, shall we say, warning that you cannot do this again. At least send a strong message that you cannot do this again. Sana napatawag pa yung dating Navy chief na finire because he disagreed with the contract, with a part of the contract. So I think if ever the Senate dutifully did investigate the Free Gates deal, the 15.5 billion Free Gates deal, nag-send yan ng chilling signal, a message to the powerful people, to Bongo, to Lau, that you cannot do this again. So yun lang. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, Gigi. So that's why we're here now.
Mm-mm. At maaring yung reaction din ni Presidente na going out of his way to really defend Lau and Michael Yang. Siguro ano din yun yung parang sanay siya that the senators wouldn't look into things like this. Tapos biglang ngayon is talagang in-squeeze nila for all the what they can get out of it po.
Sorry, one point lang, Gigi. Bakit dun sa 15.5 billion Navy frigates deal, ang lumabas doon, open pala ang Malacanang for, if you have
appeal.
It's a message saying, hey, come to us. Kung may problema kayo sa mga bidding nyo, sa mga contracts nyo, come to us and we will solve them. Ganun yung naging message. So, hindi maganda. Dapat kasi iniwan yun sa Department of National Defense.
Di ba sabi mo nga, how did the Korean company even know na pwede silang makiusap sa Malacanang even after the contract went to their rival company already?
To add to that, no, yung ganon, yung pwede kang pumunta sa akin, if we are to believe the accusation against Attorney Lau as a housing chief, dinala niya yun nung naging housing chief siya. Kasi according to the complaint that was filed before the Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission, ang ginawa ni Attorney Lau, kung dati, developers apply for a social housing permit in the regional housing directors, ang ginawa niya, apply to the CEO, which is me. And that created a traffic of applications. Tapos nung nagka-traffic na ng application, gumawa siya ng express lane for a fee. So the complaint alleges that it was really a grand scheme of extortion. But we never knew anything about it kasi ang PACC maingay yan eh. Nasa early stages pa lang sila ng investigation.
What's
Pinapublicize. The Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission, yung ginawa ni President Duterte na commission nung nainis siya kay Ombudsman Morales. Yung PACC, they like to publicize their investigations kahit in the early stages. Bizarrely, dito kay Attorney Lau, they never said anything about it and they didn't act on it. Binigay nila pabalik sa housing at hanggang ngayon ay hindi natin alam kung anong nangyari and we have asked Secretary Del Rosario about it, di naman siya nag-reply sa atin. Pero sabi ni Senator Ontiveros, Secretary Del Rosario knows and had in fact asked Attorney Lau to respond. Pero nag-move on na kasi yung Senate investigation after that. So we don't know yet kung anong nangyari sa complaint na yun.
Kita mo yung pattern. Marites, you've said in one of your newsletters that knowing how Duterte is as a leader, you don't think yung Yang and Formally are an isolated case in his administration. Actually, kung ganun yung style nila and he has 58 subsidiaries that are into all sorts of businesses, definitely it's possible. So this has been pointed out in the Senate formally hearings, Lian, Marites. Are we possibly looking at money laundering operations here?
That is certainly the question of Senator Gordon, the chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee. At di naman niya tinatago kung ano yung gusto niyang tumbukin. Sabi niya the other hearing, sabi niya, malay ba namin kung galing sa drugs yung pera na yan? Kasi they cannot wrap their heads around the idea that Farmally was able to finance all these projects on its own. So syempre, ang sinabi na ni Lincoln Ong tsaka ni Huang Tzuyen, humiram sila kay Michael Yang or nagpagaranti sila. Pero may isang kontrata for test kits na sinabi ni Huang Tzuyen, hindi siya humingi ng tulong kay Michael Yang, kundi ginamit niya ang kanyang life savings sa isang bangko sa Singapore. So parang sinasabi ni Senator Pangilinan, saan galing yung savings mong yan? You are, I think he's just nearing 30. So batang-bata pa.
31 siya, 31.
31. Parang batang-bata pa, parang, so saan mo kinuha yung life savings mong yan? Paano kayo nagbayad ng mga supplier? So that's certainly the trajectory na tinitignan ng Blue Ribbon Committee. And dito lang, bago tayo nag-tune out for the StreamYard, Senator Drilon wanted to get documents that would support yung audited financial statement nila. Kasi noong 2020, even though they got mga 7.9 billion pesos in sales from government, ang na-incur nilang cost of sales ay 7 billion. So parang konti lang din yung natira supposedly sa kanila. Sabi ni Senator Drilon, I want documents to support na wala na sa inyo yung perang yan, ganyan. And I want the deeds of donation kung saan nyo nilagay yung 33 million pesos na nilagay nyo sa financial statement nyo na dinonate nyo. So yun yung gusto niyang next na makita, and they have subpoenaed the accountant. Pero ang sinasabi na kanina ng president ng Farmally, si Twinkle Dargani, that she has been advised by counsel that she cannot submit all the documents citing data privacy and bank secrecy laws.
Actually, even yung mga bagong companies ni Michael Yang established during the Duterte presidency, ang laki-laking capital yung kailangan doon, di ba? Parang like the real estate company, PIA, parang in the partnership to develop prospectively an economic zone, di ba? How could it have been financed? Anyway, this is the question that the public, even as journalists, ask ourselves after we uncover anomalies. No? Does the investigation, does the revelation change anything? Parang, and given all the findings of conflict of interest and if money laundering will be proven, what can be done to hold to account these people who have abused power or their connections?
Well, siguro kailangan mo nang mag-open ng investigasyon bago tayo makarating sa accountability part, no? Pero there's no criminal investigation yet. At this moment, walang criminal investigation na nangyayari.
Sino dapat dito? DOJ?
Both. So it should be the Office of the Ombudsman, primarily because they're public officials. The Office of the Ombudsman, in fairness to them, has opened a fact-finding inquiry, pero hindi siya criminal investigation. So it's a fact-finding. It's the very, very first level of a probe. The DOJ, no stage 1 yet. Hindi pa talaga.
And kapag sa ganito, the private businessman will be out of the pool.
Pwede. Pwede silang maisali, just like Janet Lim Napoles was charged and convicted for plunder even though private siya. So pwede naman. Pwede siyang pwedeng mag-tie up ng private people, just like also Wally Sombero, who was as a private person middleman for Jack Lam, was also part of the 3 convicted for plunder recently for the immigration scam.
Based on your talks with your sources, what are the chances na merong mag-initiate ng magsampa ng complaint to force the ombudsman, to force the DOJ to actually do an investigation?
Sa tingin ko, public pressure lang ang makakapagpa-force sa kanila kasi I think matagal na dapat nagkaroon ng fact-finding. Yun ngang fact-finding ng ombudsman, ito sa slight change of tune from the ombudsman himself. At itong DOJ, hindi talaga. Pero ang sinasabi ni Secretary Guevara, basta mag-file lang kayo ng complaint. So, I guess the most we can do at this point is wait for the Blue Ribbon Committee hearings to terminate the hearing at release the committee report, and someone could file a complaint. So that's civil society. That can even be the Senate if they want to endorse the report and fashion it as a complaint. It could even be the DOH pa nga kung gugustuhin talaga nila, sabihin nila na yung supply na nakuha namin ay defective. Pero feeling ko kapag DOH yung nag-complaint, may magrereklamo naman na wait lang, sa inyo galing yung pera, so dapat actually isa kayo sa mga sasampahan ng reklamo.
So clearly, all this have already opened a Pandora's box, no? But where would you like to bring an investigation like this? Or ano pang gusto nating deepen, given after all that we've found out about Michael Yang, Farmally?
Parang Gigi, I don't know, parang nakikita kong scenario is this will drag on until after the elections next year. It might go, there might be more robust investigation kung bagong administrasyon. So parang as of now, tama sila yan, we just have to wait. But in the court of public opinion, I don't know if the issues are being digested and understood, but there's palpable anger, at least in our circles in social media, no. So let's see. This is really parang it comes as a big issue to consider for who to vote for in 2022.
May I just add, ako if I were to dictate, no, I would be interested to see a more parang surgical investigation kung ano bang nangyari sa kanila sa DBM, because as revealed by Senator Amy Marcos the last hearing, nagpa-audit pala si Secretary Wendell Avisado ng PSDBM. Hindi to COA audit The Secretary wanted an audit of PSDBM, and that audit revealed na severely delayed yung mga deliveries ng Farmally to the PSDBM. So that alone, that act of the Secretary of the Department ordering an audit into your own people about the pandemic procurement, and on surface feeling mo alay sila kasi they're both from Davao, they're both have ties to Duterte, pero pina-audit niya yung tao niya, and then Lau would resign in June, Secretary Avisado would resign in August, and we have sources who say na talagang may nangyari sa DBM this 2020 na nagkaroon talaga sila ng shake-up sa loob.
Mm-hmm. In fact, that was pointed out by Senator Kiko Pangilinan na parang during the years na nag-award ng contract or before nag-award ng contract sa Farmally, parang 84 contractual employees ng DBMPS were not renewed. Pero nag-hire ng 95. So parang if you really didn't need the services of these people, ba't mo sila hindi ni-renew tapos kumuha ka ng bago? So the impression in political circles is tinanggal mo lang yung tao ng iba, nagpasok ka ng bagong tao mo to be complicit in all of this. Diba?
At yung mga tinanggal, sila yung nagbigay ngayon ng confirmation about certain questionable acts, like yung pagpirma ng inspection report kahit wala pa yung supply. Yun yung mga tinanggal
Siguro yung guarantee lang natin sa ating audience that Newsbreak Rappler's investigative arm will definitely be staying with this story. Siguro I'll ask for a wrap or last words, what you've gained, insights you've gained from all the investigations you've done while you are monitoring all these cases.
Since I don't report on a day-to-day basis, but I really am interested in what Lian said, how government agency like the procurement service of the DBM, how it was corrupted how the process, which used to be, we didn't hear much about PSDBM until today. Hindi ko naman alam yung, meron palang ganyan na
Marcos
all
creation po.
Marcos creation.
po, diba?
But we never heard of scandals involving PS. So now, parang we're learning na what really happened in this office, how good governance can fail, how an office which used to be seen as professional can be corrupted. And it's a very interesting study of the political culture that has been created under the Duterte administration.
Ako yung takeaway ko yung yung parang this is the ghost of Bayanihan haunting the Senate, which passed Bayanihan. Alam naman nila na may black
diba?
diba? Parang dapat I guess I expected some more foresight during the legislation of Bayanihan na hindi niya pwedeng i-blanket suspend ang procurement law because that could result in so many irregularities such the one that's happening today. And to echo yung suspecha ni Senator Drilon, tignan mo talaga parang kailangan kaya parang diligent ka sa una pa lang ng mga galaw kasi para kay Senator Drilon what he sees happening is premeditated plunder na nagsimula sa Bayanihan, the transfer of funds to PSDBM, and then so parang it's not one whole scheme kasi wala nang pork barrel scam ngayon kasi natuto na sila. They're not gonna be that stupid to do a pork barrel scam repeat. So medyo stretch out ang stages across years and across areas, across branches.
Or yung premeditated blunder, parang siguro dun dapat magalit ang mga tao na parang okay, it could be justified na isang tabi yung mga requirements ng procurement law dahil may pandemic. Pero parang nakita nyo pa yon na dahil may pandemic, samantalahin natin na sige. Parang
ako siguro para sa akin yung the fact that this controversy has captured the imagination of a lot more people. Kasi dati, pag sinabing Michael Yang, hindi yung gagalawin ng media, tayo lang ata nag-report ng mga Michael Yang issues or in any real death. But now, you hear Michael Yang's name on the radio being talked about by the broadcasters and parang talagang issue siya kasi pandemya nga. At yung what we're talking about are life and death things, diba? Like supplies for health workers, tampering, yung mga ganyang bagay, alam ng mga tao na hindi siya ganun kadali na i-excuse away, like, to just put under a rug. Kasi people are really concerned about all of that money and, it's the pandemic, everybody is affected by the pandemic. So parang, kumbaga mas naging, for me, ito yung issue na, if anything, it would really, it has convinced more people to be more critical of the government. I mean, napaka-different ng tone ng mga radio broadcasters when talking about this issue. They're less willing to be more forgiving of the government when it comes to this issue. So, I mean, better late than never, diba? I mean, we have elections coming up, so really good starting point ito for people to start thinking na we need people nga who are more, who can be held accountable and who can be more responsible with our government funds. So I'm really hopeful na itong issue na to can be the start of something better for our country.
And sana matuto ang mga tao, ang stakeholders, ang mga watchdog na sa susunod na administrasyon, babantayan mo yung advisors kasi parang the appointed officials na nasa mga ahensya kasi madali nating nababantayan, may COA reports, may mga beat reporters na nagko-cover, pero yung advisors like Michael Yang na operating in the shadows, tapos magugulantang ka na lang na yumaman na ng ganito, mayroon ng ganitong deals, diba? At yung lagi nating sinasabi sa Newsbreak Chats after discussions na sana din ma-realize ng public, hindi kaya ng media, hindi kaya ng investigative journalists, lahat ng pag-amoy, pagsunod sa mga gantong controversy. We really need you to watch these people with us, diba? But yan, yung promise natin is we will definitely be staying with this story kahit saan to magsangat. I know that these two reporters are working on separate stories as follow-up. To wrap, we are inviting you to read more about President Duterte's obviously favorite advisor. You can go to Rappler's Michael Young topic page at rappler.com/Michael-Young, or you can click the link in the comments. Okay. And to keep up to date with news about corruption, you can also check out Rappler's Budget Watch topic page at rappler.com/budget-watch, or click the link in the comments. And for more explainers, in-depth reports, investigations, and podcasts and video specials about these and other issues, visit and bookmark our Newsbreak section at rappler.com/newsbreak. We're providing the link in the comments. And in this edition, I've been mentioning a lot yung weekly newsletters ni Marites. If you want to receive the exclusive and very insightful weekly newsletters from Marites V2, join Rappler Plus. It's a community of Rappler supporters who engage in smart and constructive discourse with our journalists. The members get access to exclusive content by and events with journalists and experts in various fields and sectors. If you're interested in becoming a member of Rappler Plus, click the link in the comments. Okay. Samahan niyo kami patuloy sa pagbabantay kung paano inaabuso ng mga opisyal at ng kanilang mga kaibigan ang kapangyarihan na ipinagkatiwala lang sa kanila ng taong bayan. Panagutin natin ang mga sa maling paraan ay namamayagpag habang karamihan sa ating kababayan ay naghihirap. Ako si Miriam Grace Go. Tumuto kayo sa Newsbreak Chats, and I'll see you again on the last Thursday of October.